She arrives after the last sword falls, before the ravens, before the silence settles. Her horse's hooves don't touch the ground. One warrior's hand is still moving. Not much, just the fingers, opening and closing on nothing. She sees it, she stops. No one knows how she decides. The Norse didn't explain it. They just knew she did. One person goes to Val-El. Another does not. She is the difference. The question the Valkyries carry isn't about death. It's about worth. Who fought well enough, who died cleanly enough. Who Odin needs for the war that hasn't happened yet. Ragnarök, the end of the gods, requires an army. The Valkyries are Odin's recruiters. Every battle is an audition. Every death is a decision. The hall keeps filling. But the Valkyries are not just instruments. This is what the sagas keep revealing. They make choices Odin didn't authorize. They love people they were never supposed to love. Did you carry something today that felt too large for you? A choice, a responsibility, a weight you didn't ask for. The Valkyries carry that too. Tonight, let them take the shift. Settle in now. Adjust your weight, find the comfortable edge of sleep. If you drift before the Valkyrie lands, that's exactly right. She'll find the ones she needs. She always does. Norse myths, Egyptian gods, Japanese spirits. Hundreds of ancient stories are on this channel, waiting for restless nights. Subscribe if you'd like them close. Now the Valkyries ride. The Norse had many names for them. Valkyrdr, choosers of the slain. Swan-Maidens, wish maidens of Odin. Skaldmar, shield maidens. Each name a different angle on the same truth. Odin needed them from the beginning. He was building Val-El, the Hall of the Chosen Dead, and he needed hands to do the choosing. The Valkyries were the answer. Their names are preserved in the sagas. Gjundul. Some appear in multiple sources, some only once. The Norse cataloged them the way they cataloged stars. Too many to count, each one named. Skuld is the strangest of them. She also appears as one of the three Norns. The weavers of fate at Yggdrasil's roots. The woman who decides what is coming also collects the cost. The Aurora Borealis, the northern lights, was the Valkyries riding. That's what the Norse believed. The green and violet shimmer was hoofbeats and armor. The sky their road. When their horses flew through clouds, the dew that fell became the morning rain on the fields below. The Norse saw the Valkyries in every part of the world's weather. They were everywhere. They served mead at Val-El's feast. But don't mistake that for smallness. The mead was seer-touched, magic-infused. The cup held by someone who had just decided who lived and who didn't. Some Valkyries had names that meant their nature directly. Wund, Wielder, Gerska Gull, Spear Shaker, Herfjutter, Army Fetter. Names that told you exactly what kind of force had arrived. Before we follow the Valkyries deeper, settle your breath. They ride above the world tonight, as they have every night since the Norse first looked up at the Aurora and found a name for it. Before the Valkyries, there were only the dead. The battlefield ended with ravens and silence. No one choosing, no one carrying, no direction for the fallen. Odin had a problem only he could see. Ragnarök, the end of the gods, was coming. He had calculated it. He needed an army unlike any that had ever existed. The dead didn't go to Val-El by accident. Odin chose them through the Valkyries. Every battle was a recruitment. Every warrior who died well was a potential soldier for the final war. Not all dead warriors went to Val-El. Odin took half. The goddess Freyja took the other half. Her meadow hall Ethelokvanga received them. 2 halls, 2 kinds of honored dead. The ones who drowned at sea went to Ran, the sea goddess who caught the drowned in her net. The ones who died of illness or old age went to Hel. The battlefield dead were the contested ones. The Valkyries operated at the intersection of all of this. They were the sorters, the choosers, the ones whose judgment determined which world received you. A moment's work with permanent consequences. Their names came in clusters in the sagas. The Luspa, the Cirrus's prophecy, the opening poem of the Poetic Edda, lists 6 of them, each name a compressed story. Gjundul, Wund, wielder, Gerskber spear shaker, Ra, Gruyere, council, violent. These weren't titles. They were descriptions of what she was made of. Herfjatur means army fetter. She could stop a battle by arriving. Warriors mid, swing finding their arms wouldn't finish the arc. Her presence was the end of motion. Skuld appears in two different lists, once as a Valkyrie, once as the youngest Norn. Some scholars argue they're the same figure. The Norse may not have seen a contradiction there. What does it mean to be both weaver and chooser? To design the battle and then arrive to gather the results. The Norse may have been saying, fate doesn't just plan, it shows up. The Valkyries rode at night mostly, or at least that's when the Norse saw them. The Aurora was the evidence. The green and violet shimmer across the sky. Armor, horses, the sound of choosing. In Iceland and Norway, the Aurora appears throughout the year. The Norse didn't need to be told to look up. The sky demanded it. Every winter, the Valkyries rode over. Their horses were not ordinary horses. The dew from their manes fell as morning rain. The frost from their breath became the rime on the grass. They touched the weather of the world below. Some Valkyries appear only once in the sagas, named but without a story. Just the name preserved, evidence that the Norse imagined many more of them than the stories could contain. The ones with stories are the interesting ones. Because the stories that survived are mostly about the Valkyries, who did something they weren't supposed to. The obedient ones left no trace. Here's the part the myths never make obvious. The Valkyries who loved mortals didn't love them despite the rules. They loved them because of the choosing. You can't choose someone constantly and not know them. The Swan-Maidens story begins in a forest. 3 Valkyries, Hervor Alvidr and her sisters Hlag, Gar, Svanhvit and Uladin, shed their swan cloaks at a lake and bathed in the dawn light. 3 men watched from the trees. The smith Valkyr and his brothers. They saw the cloaks on the bank. They saw what the cloaks meant. They took them before the women could return. Without their cloaks, the Valkyries couldn't leave. They were grounded, not in chains, but in the simple fact of missing the thing that made them what they were. The men offered marriage. They lived together for 7 years. The saga says this with brevity. 7 years compressed into a sentence. But 7 years is a life. 7 years is children, seasons, ordinary mornings. In the 8th year, the Valkyries grew restless. The sagas say they yearned for battle. What they yearned for was themselves. The version of themselves the cloaks represented. The choosing. The riding. Here's the part that matters. The 9th year they left. The story says they flew away to the south. Not crept, not ran, flew. They found the cloaks or made new ones. They simply left. Valkyr was captured by a king after they left. Enslaved, he made rings, hundreds of rings, and waited. The rings became a legend of their own. His grief and his craft were the same thing. The Swan-Maiden story doesn't end happily. Or rather, it ends with each person following what they fundamentally are. The Valkyries flew. Valkyr forged and eventually escaped. Everyone went home. What the story says about Valkyries is this: they can be held for a while, 7 years, 9 years, but not permanently. What they are reasserts itself. The cloak finds its way back. Lauren, one of the 3 sisters, is named in one other source, in a lament. Her name appears as a word that means something like secret wisdom of the owl. Her name survived her story. Hlagir Svanhvit, swan white necklace. Her name contained the swan even before the cloak. Some Valkyries were always partly bird, partly woman, the boundary between forms always thin. The Swan-Maiden motif appears across world mythology. The woman whose true form is a bird, the cloak that transforms her, the man who takes it. The Norse version is notable for what the Valkyries do next. They left. That's what makes the Norse version different. Other Swan-Maidens are rescued or trapped or wait. The Valkyries simply go. The cloak or its equivalent is found and they fly. The forest is quiet after they leave. Not sad, just quiet. The world continuing at its own pace. the absence of the extraordinary, neither terrible nor empty. Just the world being itself again. Sigrun was a different kind of Valkyrie story. She didn't just choose a warrior. She chose him specifically, repeatedly, against other warriors who wanted to marry her. She exercised her own will about who was worth it. Helgi Hundingsbane. He killed a king named Hundinger, and the name stuck. The saga follows him from his boyhood to his death, and Sigrun is present at both ends. She was already watching when he was a child. She protected him in his battles. This is unusual. Valkyries choose the dead, they don't typically keep the living alive. Sigrun bent the function. She shielded him when others would have let him fall. She told him she loved him. The saga records this directly. The Valkyrie riding to the warrior and saying the thing plainly. Not metaphor, not implication, she said it. They married. The Valkyrie and the warrior she had chosen, and then loved. The saga describes their happiness in one sentence, and then moves to the battle that will kill him. Helgi died in his third battle. His half-brother Dager, who had sworn peace, killed him with a spear borrowed from Odin. An oath broken. A god's weapon doing what oaths couldn't stop. Sigrun received the news. Her grief in the saga is given space, unusual in Norse poetry, which tends toward compression. She is allowed to feel the whole of it in the text, page after page of it. Her handmaidens saw something near the burial mound one night. Soldiers, and among them Helgi. Not a ghost in the frightening sense, just Helgi, riding toward the mound with his men. The handmaiden ran to tell Sigrun. Sigrun prepared the burial mound, bedding, fire, food. If Helgi was coming back for one night, she would make it a night worth having. Helgi came. The saga is spare about what happened inside the mound. Just that they were together, that the night was warm, that they talked. At dawn he rode away with his men. The Norse belief that made the burial mound reunion possible was specific. The dead could return once. Not haunt, return. Sit at the table. Hold a hand. Then go cleanly back to where they were. This belief wasn't unique to Sigrun's story. The Norse built burial mounds with doorways. Not symbolic ones, actual passages. The architecture assumed return was possible. The design allowed for it. The Valkyries operated in this same space, between the living world and whatever comes after. They weren't just messengers between them. They were the membrane, the living tissue of the threshold. The Norse people who first heard Sigrun's story at the fire 3,000 years ago understood the burial mound night differently than we do. For them, it wasn't magic, it was how it worked. We've inherited the Valkyries through centuries of retelling. Wagner gave them spears and opera. Marvel gave them wings and spectacle. The Norse gave them names and said, "They are the weather above your head." Sigrun waited the second night. Helgi didn't come. The saga says this simply. He came once, and that was all. She waited every night after that, and he didn't come again. She died soon after. The saga doesn't say how, just that she did. The Norse record of her ends there. She loved him. He came back once. She waited. She died. The story doesn't need more than that. The saga adds a note: the two of them were said to be reborn. As the hero Helgi Haddingjaskadi and another Valkyrie named Kera. The love that had to end was given another run. Kera's story is lost. The saga that would have contained it, the Kearolgi, doesn't survive. We have the name, the promise of a story, and silence. Some things the centuries keep and some they don't. What survives of Kera is one detail. She flew above Helgi in his final battle, in her bird form, as a swan, and he accidentally struck her with his sword. That's all. Without her protection, he fell immediately. That's the fragment. The Valkyrie protects until she can't, and then the battlefield takes what the battlefield always intended to take. This fragment is everything. The Valkyrie's love was also her protection. When the love ended, or was interrupted, the protection ended. The two things were the same thing. 3 Valkyries, 3 stories: Brynhildr, who chose wrong and was punished. Sigrun, who chose right and lost him anyway. Ra who protected and accidentally ended what she protected. None of them ended well. And yet the sagas kept telling these stories. Not as warnings, not as tragedies exactly. As evidence that even the Valkyries, the choosers, the instruments of fate, could be chosen by something. Rest with that for a moment. The stories are asking something of you. Not to be a Valkyrie, but to recognize the quality they carry. The choosing that goes beyond function. The caring that exceeds the job. Brynhildr appears in the Echa Konarmal, the poem about the death of King Efkan the Good. She comes for him personally. The king is allowed to die well, and Brynhildr is the one Odin sends. The Echa Konarmal asks what happens after. Khan arrives in Valhalla and the gods greet him. Odin himself is pleased. The poem ends with the gods saying, "This one was worth keeping." The poem was written after Khan's death by his skalds, court poets. It was an elegy that was also a comfort. Your king is in Valhalla. The best Valkyrie came for him. Odin wanted him there. That's one of the jobs the Valkyrie stories did. They made death meaningful. Not just random, not just the end. Someone came. Someone chose. Someone brought you somewhere worth going. Every culture builds some version of this. Some messenger, some guide, some figure who makes the crossing less alone. The Norse made theirs fierce, armored, and riding through the Aurora. That's very Norse. The Norse made them fierce because fierceness was respected. The guide who comes for you should be someone you'd want guiding you. Someone as strong as what you're crossing into. Let your breathing slow. The stories are still coming. Brynhildr's mountain, the fire, the choice that cost her everything. But not yet. Let the Valkyries ride above you for a moment. Just riding. The Aurora shifts. It always shifts. It can't stay still any more than the Valkyries can. The green turns toward violet. The violet opens into white at the peaks. The sky is working. The horse's breath, the armor's sound, the specific cadence of the ride. The Norse could probably identify each Valkyrie by her horse's hoofbeat pattern. They knew that sky the way we know our own streets. You can let your eyes close now if they want to. The Valkyries don't need you watching to do their work. They've been riding above sleeping people since the first winter the Norse spent in the north. The stars above the Aurora. There's always a layer of stars above the Aurora. The Aurora is low, relatively speaking. The stars are much further, both present, both working. The fjord below is still. The water has been still for hours, since the wind dropped at sunset. The Aurora is reflected in it. The Valkyries visible above and below. The mountains on either side of the fjord hold the reflection. They've been holding this reflection every clear night for 10,000 years. The Valkyries were probably already riding when the mountains formed. Snow on the peaks. The mountains don't lose it, not at the tops, not in summer. The white is permanent up there. The same white that was there when the Norse first named the Valkyries. The world is very old. The Norse knew this. Their cosmology began with ice and fire meeting in the void. They started from the premise that the world was ancient before anything was in it. The Valkyries were born into an old world and made it older by their presence. Every battle they attended added another layer. Every choice they made was another ring in the tree. The dew from their horses is on the grass right now, not metaphorically, or not only metaphorically. The morning dew on the grass tomorrow comes from somewhere. The Norse knew where. Your body is mostly water. The dew on the grass is the Valkyries. The rain that fell this week is theirs. The water in you connects to the sky above you, and the sky is their road. Let that connection do its work tonight. The water in you knows the sky it came from. The Valkyries are riding above right now, as they have been every night. And the sky knows you're there. Brynhildr is still on the mountain. We'll reach her soon. The fire ring, the sleep, the choice that cost her everything, and the choice she made anyway. That story is still ahead. For now, the Aurora. For now, the horses above. For now, the dew falling toward the sleeping world, and the mountains holding the fjord, and the stars above the lights, patient and ancient, and there. Brynhildr was the greatest of them. The sagas agree on this. Not the most obedient, not the most powerful, but the greatest. There is a difference. She had been choosing for centuries. Battlefield after battlefield, the war against Ragnarök, filling one warrior at a time. She knew the work, and she was good at it, and she believed in it. Then Odin gave her a specific assignment. 2 kings were fighting, Gunnar and Agnar. Odin had already decided Gunnar wins. He told Brynhildr she was to ensure it. She watched the battle. She saw Gunnar fighting, and she saw Agnar. And something in Agnar's fighting was different. Better. More worth choosing than Odin had accounted for. She chose Agnar, not Gunnar. She gave Agnar the victory, gave Gunnar to the other death. Not Val-Lel, just the end. She reversed Odin's decision. Why did she do it? The sagas don't fully explain. Some say she simply thought she knew better. Some say she couldn't bear to send Agnar to an ordinary death when he deserved Val-Hallel. Odin came to her directly, not through messengers. He came himself, which tells you something about how seriously he took the disobedience. The Allfather arriving in person. She told him directly Agnar deserved it more. Odin said, "That's not yours to decide." She said, "But it was mine to see." The argument was not resolved. It was ended by power, not reason. He sentenced her. Not to death. Something more specific. She would sleep on the mountain until a man came who could cross the fire. And she would marry him. She would be mortal. She had one condition. She asked, "If I must marry, let it be a man without fear." Odin agreed. The fire ring would be the test. Only the fearless could cross it. He put her to sleep with a sleep thorn. A single touch. She fell on Hindarjal in full armor, and the fire rose around her. She had been the greatest of the Valkyries. Now she waited. The fire didn't burn. It didn't grow. It circled the summit and stayed, year after year, decade after decade. The mountain's fire became a landmark in the Norse world. People knew about it. Men tried to cross the fire. The saga mentions them without names. Those who attempted. The fire sensed their fear. It rose when they approached, settled back when they retreated. The wait lasted. The sagas don't give a number. Long enough for the story of the fire mountain to spread across the Norse world. Long enough for the right person to be born and grow and arrive. Sigurd arrived. He had slain the dragon Fafnir by then, eaten the dragon's heart, heard the birds, ridden north on Grani. He came to Hindarfjall the way he came to everything. Directly. Grani walked into the fire. The flames parted. Not dramatically. The way a curtain parts when you push through it. The fire recognized what was crossing and made room. She was in full armor. Shield on one arm, sword at her side, helmet covering her face. He thought she was a fallen warrior, until the helmet came off. He cut the armor away. The corselet had grown into the sleep, needed a blade to free it. Graham went through the rings of mail like water. When the armor fell away, she breathed differently. She opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was the sky. The first thing she said, in the poetic Edda, word for word, was a greeting to the day. She woke into gratitude. She looked at Sigurd. She asked who had crossed the fire. He told her his name, his lineage, his line. She had heard of the Violulsung bloodline. She had watched the battles of his ancestors. She taught him for days. That's the part that gets skipped in most retellings. The teaching. She sat with him on the mountain and gave him everything she knew. Rune lore, strategy, the wisdom of centuries. She taught him victory runes, healing runes, speech runes, for the moments when words were the weapon. Wave runes, limb runes, thought runes. The curriculum of a Valkyrie given to a mortal. She told him about fate. The Norns, the threads, the things that were coming for him. She didn't hide it. She told him what she could see and trusted him to hear it. She told him about the potion. That somewhere ahead, someone would give him a drink that would make him forget. She told him this. He forgot it anyway. When the moment came, he pledged himself to her. On the mountain, with the fire ring as witness. He gave her the ring and Veranot, the cursed ring from Fafnir's hoard, as the pledge. Then he left. The world required him elsewhere. The Niflungs, the court of Gigi, the next chapter of his fate. She let him go. The pledge held. She believed. It would have to be enough for now. She came down from the mountain. The fire didn't stop her. The punishment was served, the sleep completed. She established a hall, gathered Valkyries around her, ruled as she had always ruled. She waited for Sigurd. She was not passive in the waiting. She ran her hall, made decisions, trained warriors. But in the part of her that tracked the ring on her finger, she was waiting. Gunnar came instead. He wanted to marry her. He had heard of Brynhildr, which Niflung king hadn't, and wanted what her name represented. He came to the fire ring and his horse refused. He tried Grani, Sigurd's horse, the son of Sleipnir. Grani refused him too. The horse knew the difference. The fire would know it too and did. Gunnar asked Sigurd, used the blood brotherhood between them, the oath of kinship they had sworn. Help me win Brynhildr. Take my shape. Cross the fire as me, you can do it. The shape magic was used. Odin's art, seer, and Sigurd became Gunnar-faced. He rode Grani to the fire ring. Grani crossed without hesitation. The fire parted. Brynhildr woke. She had been sleeping again in her hall now. She saw Gunnar's face. She asked if this was the man who crossed the fire. The transformed Sigurd said yes. She had given her word. 3 nights they slept in her hall with a sword between them. The transformed Sigurd keeping the boundary, honoring Gunnar's rights, protecting Brynhildr from the lie even while living inside it. He took back the ring and Veranot before he left, removed it from her hand while she slept, the ring she had worn as his pledge, now taken back as Gunnar's agent. The ring moved on. Brynhildr married Gunnar. The ceremony was performed. Sigurd attended as blood brother to the groom. He gave her the ring and Veranot as a wedding gift, not knowing where it had been. She didn't know. That's the weight of it. She didn't know who had really crossed the fire. The Valkyrie who had the sight to see through warriors' hearts could not see through the face. Magic that stole the crossing. Years passed. The 4 of them lived in the same court. Brynhildr and Gunnar, Sigurd and Gudrun. The wrongness accumulated the way wrongness does slowly in the margins of ordinary days. Then the river. Then the argument. Then Gudrun showed her the ring. You already know what happened. We followed that story from the other side. But here is Brynhildr's side of it. She understood everything in an instant. The transformed face, the sword between them, the ring taken. She had been married to the wrong man through a deception she had no way to detect. Here's the part that matters. She didn't collapse. She was the greatest of the Valkyries. She went to her chamber and she sat with it, and she decided what to do. She demanded Sigurd's death, not from spite, from the specific grief of someone who lost something they were supposed to have, and whose loss was someone else's deliberate act. The accounting was clear. Sigurd himself came to her first, offered to explain, to leave Gudrun, to honor the original pledge, to go back to the mountain in whatever way could undo what had been done. She refused. Sigurd left her chamber weeping. That detail the saga preserves specifically. The warrior who never feared a dragon, who slew the impossible thing and ate its heart, wept leaving Brynhildr's room. Guttorm killed Sigurd in his sleep. The blood brotherhood prevented Gunnar and Hogni from acting directly. Guttorm had sworn no oath. The deed was done. Brynhildr had what she asked for. She was not satisfied. She laughed once when she heard Gudrun's grief. The saga preserves that laugh, and then says immediately that it was not laughter. The Norse understanding, the laugh was grief wearing the wrong face. She prepared herself. She told Gunnar everything, the full account, clearly and without blame. She told him who Sigurd was, what she had witnessed in him, why the loss was what it was. She said Sigurd was the greatest person who had ever lived. Not the greatest warrior, the greatest person. She had chosen warriors for centuries. She knew the difference. She asked to be burned with him. On the same pyre. The sword between them. As it had been in her hall on those 3 nights, the boundary kept even in fire. Brynhildr's defiance of Odin was not an accident or a moment of passion. The Norse sagas preserve it as a considered choice. She saw something Odin had decided to ignore, and she corrected it. Norse mythology is full of figures who defy the gods and pay for it, and are not diminished by the payment. Loki defied repeatedly. Odin himself hung on Yggdrasil against divine expectation. Defiance had a place. The Norse, listening to Brynhildr's story by the fire 3,000 years ago, wouldn't have said she was wrong. They might have said she was unwise. But the wrongness and the wisdom are different things. The punishment, the sleep, the fire, the forced marriage, was real and was severe. But the Norse preserved the story in a way that keeps her dignity intact throughout. The punishment didn't make her wrong. What the story asks of its listeners, then and now, is to hold both things. The defiance was right. The punishment was real. These two facts don't cancel each other. They coexist. That's the Norse gift. She died. The pyre was lit. Sigurd and Brynhildr, the sword between them. The fire accepted them both. The Völuspá saga says the smoke rose straight up, no wind, everything still. She arrived in Valhalla still in armor. That's not in the text, but it's in every reading of the text. Brynhildr would not have arrived anywhere else. She went back to where she had spent her life. The saga doesn't follow her into Val-Lel. It ends with the pyre. But the Norse would have known. The greatest Valkyrie returned to her hall. To her function, to the choosing that was always her nature. Let her rest there for now. The fire on the mountain went out when she left. The saga doesn't say this, but Hindarfjall must have been different after. One less light in the Norse landscape. The story takes a breath here. The greatest Valkyrie story complete. The other stories still coming. The dew on the fields. The Aurora that carries them all. The end that is also a beginning. The wind is moving through the high passes. That cold, clean wind that carries nothing but itself. The Norse knew this wind, named it, understood its direction as information about the world's intentions. Your body knows wind, not the names for it, not the Norse system of reading direction and intention, but the feeling of it. Cold air on skin is information your body understands without translating. Let the warmth be enough. The Valkyries are riding above. The wind is moving through the passes. The mountain that held Brynhildr is dark and cold, and exactly the right temperature for the stone it's made of. The dew is forming on the grass below. The Valkyries passed an hour ago. You can tell by when the dew starts. The Norse could read this. They had been watching long enough. The stars are in their places. Orion in the south, the North Star fixed, the Milky Way arsing. The Norse had names for some of these. Others they simply watched, unnamed but known. The Aurora has dimmed slightly. Not gone, just softer. The Valkyries are further north right now, in the high Arctic, where the choosing was dense tonight. They'll come back south by morning. Let the dimmer Aurora be enough. The world doesn't need to be at full brightness to be at peace. Dimmer is also beautiful. The softer version of things is still things. Your breathing is the right volume too. Slow, deep, the interval between breaths longer than it was an hour ago. The body is doing what it knows how to do. The Norns noted it. The saga rests here. The Valkyries ride. The dew falls. The mountain is dark. The fire is somewhere else now, in Val-Lel in the feast. In Brynhildr, who needed it more than the mountain did. You are in the right place. Wherever you are, the story has found you there. The Aurora is above you or it isn't, but the Valkyries are riding whether the sky shows it or not. The fire on the mountain is gone. Brynhildr is in Val-Lel. The dew is on the grass. The stars are turning. Everything is in its right place. The night is doing its work. Rest now. The Valkyries are on their road. The choosing is done for tonight. Whatever fell today has been attended to. The night shift is running, and it knows what it's doing. The mountain holds. The fjord holds. The Norns are weaving. Brynhildr is choosing again in Val-Lel in her armor, the greatest of them doing the work she was made for. You don't have to do anything with the story tonight. You received it. That's enough. The chain from the Norse storyteller to you held, and you're part of it now. Let the names go now gently. Brynhildr, Sigurd, Julundul, Sigrun, Kara. Let them return to the story and rest there. They'll be there when you want them. They're not going anywhere. The Aurora is still moving. It will move all night. The Valkyries will ride until the dawn begins to show at the eastern edge of the sky. Then they'll cross back over Bifrost before the light finds them. The dawn will come when it comes. You don't need to hurry it. The night is sufficient for what the night is for. Rest is its own preparation for whatever the morning will require. The stars are still turning. The great wheel. The Milky Way will have moved an inch of arc by morning, invisible to the eye, constant to the instrument. Everything in motion, everything held. The Valkyries' horses are somewhere above the clouds right now. Not above your clouds, somewhere else, further north. The clouds between you and them are soft and thick, and good for sleeping under. The water is doing what water does. Rivers running to the sea. The sea breathing against the shore. The tide moving in its slow pull. The world's water in its continuous patient circuit. Your water knows the sea. The water in you has been to the sea and back, as rain, as river, as dew, as the Valkyries' manes. The circuit is long, but it completes. You are part of it. Let the circuit carry you. You don't have to swim in the river to be part of its going. The water knows where it's going. The Valkyries know their road, you know sleep. The Aurora is at its softest now, just a pale shimmer at the northern edge of the sky. The Valkyries are at the far end of their road, deep in the choosing. The sky is nearly dark. The fire is in Val-Lel. The mountain is dark. The dew is on the grass. The stars are turning. You are somewhere in all of this, and all of this is going well. The saga has more to tell. The final ride, the Ragnarök choice, what the Valkyries do at the end of all things. That story is still ahead, for whenever you're ready. For now, the Aurora. For now, the dew on the grass. For now, the mountain without its fire and Brynhildr in Val-Lel and the stars turning, and you here in the right place. Let your body be heavy. Not weighted. Heavy the way a stone is heavy at the bottom of a cold river, settled, held exactly where it belongs. The fire in the hearth has burned down to embers. Orange coals, no flame, still warm. The warmth will hold through the night. The stone of the hearth stores heat well, releases it slowly. The Valkyries are still riding. The world is still going. You don't have to do anything with that. Just let it go on. It knows how. Brynhildr chose Agnar and paid for it, and did not regret it. That's the shape of the story that matters. What she chose was right. What she paid was real. Both things were hers. Whatever you chose today, the cost was real and the choosing was yours. The Norns have it. The Valkyries know it. The river carries it. That's enough for tonight. This is the moment the whole mountain was built for. The fire ring, the sleep, the centuries. All of it leading to this one instant. The first look at the sky after the punishment ends. Sigurd crossed. Grani's hooves through the fire. The flames recognizing what they were designed to recognize. The fearless thing, and making room. The center of the mountain reached. Gram through the armor. The corselet's rings parting. The chest free. The first deep breath. The sleep, thorn's work undone by the sword of the fearless. The mountain releasing what it held. The eyes opening. Not slow, not gradual. The poetic Edda says she woke fully, completely, herself from the first instant. The greatest Valkyrie does not emerge gradually from anything. She greeted the day. In the poetic Edda, word for word she spoke a greeting to the sky, to the light, to the gods. The greatest of the Valkyries, punished and woken, greeted the day with gratitude. The mountain is quiet now. After the waking, everything changed, not for the world, but for the question. If the greatest Valkyrie could defy Odin, could be punished, could love and lose, what were Valkyries exactly? Odin watched it all from Hlidskjalf. He had watched Brynhildr defy him, watched her sleep and wake and love and die and return to Val-Lel. He had gotten what he needed. The hall filled regardless. The other Valkyries had watched too. They rode the Aurora above all of it, above the fire ring, above the deception, above the pyre. They kept working. That's the Norse answer to the question, keep working. But something had shifted. The stories the Norse told after Brynhildr were different. The Valkyries in them were more individual, more specific. Sigrun. Named, storied persons rather than functions. The new question wasn't about whether Valkyries could love. Brynhildr answered that. The new question was harder. What happens when the choosers are chosen themselves? By fate, by Ragnarök, by the end. Odin's plan had always pointed toward Ragnarök. Fill Val-Lel with warriors. Train them. Keep them ready. When the frost giants come and the Midgard serpent rises, the army fights. The Valkyries had been building that army one person at a time. Every battlefield, every choice. Every soul brought across Bifrost. All of it counting toward the final number. The count was almost right. But Ragnarök would not spare the Valkyries. At the final battle, the choosing stops. Everyone who can fight must fight. The Valkyries would ride into the last battle, alongside the warriors they had chosen. This is the new threat, not that the Valkyries would be punished again, not that the choosing would fail, but that the time for choosing would end. The final battle turns everyone into a warrior. The Norse didn't find this terrifying. That's the hardest thing for modern ears to absorb. They found it clarifying. The end was coming. It was large. They would fight it. That was enough. The Valkyries understood their role in this. They had been building toward it. Every warrior in Val-Lel was their work. The army was their army as much as Odin's. They had a stake in what it was for. Brynhildr appears at this point in some versions. The senior Valkyrie, watching the counting, knowing the number is close. She says nothing. She just rides. That's Brynhildr's way. The dew on the grass tomorrow morning will be from their horses. The Valkyries who are building toward Ragnarök will still be the ones who water the fields. The catastrophic and the ordinary coexist. That coexistence is the Norse comfort. The world ends. The dew still forms. The warriors feast. The Valkyries choose. Until the choosing stops, the choosing goes on. That's enough. Brynhildr is in Val-Lel choosing again. Sigrun is at the burial mound. The second night, the one Helge didn't come. She's learning to hold the waiting without the returning. The Aurora moves above both of them. The stars turn above the Aurora. The world continues at every scale simultaneously. The Valkyries are part of it. The part that chooses, that carries, that connects. The new question the saga leaves here, before the final stories, is this: when the Valkyries themselves must be chosen, when fate closes around them too, how do they face it? Brynhildr already answered it. She faced the judgment of Odin without flinching. She faced the fire ring. She faced the pyre. Each time directly, completely, as herself. Sigrun answered it differently. She didn't face the final thing directly. She waited, she grieved, she kept vigil. That's also an answer. The Norse understood both as valid. The question is available to you too. Not Ragnarök, but whatever your version of the final accounting is. The Valkyries answer: face it as yourself. Don't perform, just arrive. Tonight you arrived here, at the end of a day, at the edge of sleep, as yourself. That's the Valkyries' standard, met at your scale. The Norns noted it, the dew forms anyway. The Aurora is steady above, the Valkyries are riding. The count in Val-Lel is almost right. The final battle is not tonight. Tonight is for the feast, the mead, the choosing. Tonight is for rest. Let the story rest here for a moment. The great questions have been asked. The great answers have begun. The Valkyries are riding. The world is holding. You are here. The wind is coming from the north tonight. Cold, clean, the smell of ice and distance. The Valkyries have been north. You can tell by the temperature of the wind. They left it in the air behind them. The mountains hold the cold the way they hold the snow. For weeks after the Valkyries have gone north, the mountain air carries something of where they've been. The Norse knew this cold. Let that cold be at the edge of your warmth tonight. The warmth that exists because the cold exists. That is warmth only in relation to what it's not. The fire knows the cold. The rest knows the riding. Your body is warm. The Valkyries are cold. Cold the way the Aurora is cold. The way the high places are cold, not cruel, just true. Both states are real. Yours is the right one for right now. The river is moving. The tide is breathing. The stars are turning. The Valkyries are riding. Everything is doing its exact right thing in this exact moment. The world is correctly assembled. The saga's final movement is ahead. The dew on the fields, the Aurora at its most beautiful, the Valkyries facing what they were built to face. That story waits for you whenever you're ready. For now, rest. The Valkyries are on their road. The world is in its right arrangement. The dew is forming. The count in Val-Lel is almost complete. Tonight is for the feast and the sleep and the choosing. Not the battle. Not yet. The dew forms just before dawn. The Valkyries have passed, and the moisture from their horses' manes has settled on every blade of grass within 100 miles of their road. The Norse farmers below knew the dew. They worked with it. The timing of planting, the timing of harvest, the moisture the crops needed. They were using the Valkyries' gift without knowing it had a name. Between battles, what did the Valkyries do? The sagas don't say much. They ride, they watch, they count. The choosing is never fully at rest. There is always a skirmish somewhere, always a death worth attending. Small deaths mattered too. The warrior who fell defending his family, the sailor who drowned fighting a storm, the old man who died still trying. The Valkyries were there for all of it. The sailor who died fighting the storm, Ran would take him to her sea hall. But the Valkyries were there too, watching. Some died in enough ways at once to qualify for both. The Norse afterlife had room for complexity. The Valkyries operated without complaint. The sagas give them no complaints, no exhaustion, no boredom with the endless choosing. They were made for it. That was their gift and their nature. Hervor Alvidr came back from the forest years after leaving Valkyrdr. The Swan-Maiden returned to the road. She took up her spear again. What the years in the forest gave her was different. She chose differently now. She had lived without choosing for 7 years. She had made beds, cooked meals, walked the same forest paths. When she returned to the battlefield, she saw the dying differently, more specifically. Her choices were better for the living. The 7 years in the forest had made her choices more precise. The Valkyrdr V doesn't say this, but it's in the logic of the story. The swan cloak had been her nature. The years without it had not destroyed that nature, only held it. When she returned to it, it fit as it always had, but she wore it differently. Experience is not reversible. What you've been through shapes how you choose. This is the Valkyries' knowledge made available to mortals. Not as instruction, just as observation. The choosing is always done by the person who has lived what they've lived. The Aurora is brightest at midnight. That's when the Valkyries are most visible. The peak of their road's illumination. The horses at full speed through the highest point of their arc. After midnight, the Aurora dims toward morning. The work continues at lower brightness. The choosing doesn't stop, but the display softens. The sky does its own version of banking the fire. The birds start before dawn. The Norse world woke to birdsong, and the Norse understood birds as speakers. Since Sigurd ate the dragon's heart, he could hear them, and they talked about the Valkyries. The birds this morning are saying 12 choices were made. 3 were particularly good. Warriors who died cleanly, who were ready. The birds have been tracking the Valkyries as long as there have been birds. The Valkyries don't know the birds are talking about them. Or they do know, and they don't mind. Either way, they keep riding. The commentary doesn't change the choosing. The light is changing at the horizon. Not dawn yet, The false dawn, the zodiacal light that precedes the real one by an hour. The Norse called it something. The language is lost. The light remains. The Valkyries cross back over Bifrost before the true dawn finds them. That's what the Aurora's disappearance means at morning. The riders returning to Asgard. The road folding back into the sky. In Asgard they rest. Or do something like rest. They talk. They compare choices. They bring the mead for the feast. They sharpen what needs sharpening. They prepare for tomorrow's battlefield. And then Skuld goes to the loom. Not as a Valkyrie now, but as a Norn. She weaves tomorrow's battles into the tapestry. The choosing and the weaving are the same work in different forms. What she weaves, Junul and the others will enact. The cycle completes. The tapestry becomes the battlefield, becomes the choosing, becomes the ride to Valhalla. Lul becomes the feast, becomes tomorrow's tapestry. This cycle has been running since the gods made the first battlefield, and the first warrior fell, and the first choosing was needed. The Valkyries have been at it that long. The cycle predates the word for it. You are inside that cycle right now. Not as a warrior, not as a Valkyrie, but as a living person whose body runs on water that passed through the cycle, whose rest is part of the preparation the cycle needs. Rest is the cycle's requirement. The feast is required. The choosing is required. The riding is required. The rest of the world is also required. The resting world that the Valkyries ride above. Let your rest be complete tonight. Not partial, not interrupted by the ongoing necessity of being awake. The Valkyries have the sky. The Norns have the loom. You have the rest. It's your specific function right now. The Aurora dims another degree. The Valkyries are on their way back. The night is moving past its peak and into the long slide toward morning. The dew is fully formed on every blade of grass. Judul crosses Bifrost last. She always goes last. The senior Valkyrie counts the others through before she follows. No one left on the road. No one remaining in the night's battlefield. The world is alone now. If alone is the right word. The mortal world, without the Valkyries above it, without the Aurora. Just the stars turning and the tide breathing, and the dew on the grass. The mortal world manages. The birds will start soon. The farmers will rise. The rivers will run to the sea. The world runs itself. The Valkyries are for the exceptional moments, not the continuous management. You are the world managing yourself right now. Breathing without thinking about it. Temperature, regulating without instructions. Processing the day without being told to. The body is the world's self-management at its most personal. The dawn is still an hour away. The hour before dawn is the deepest sleep. The body and the world both at their most internal, most turned toward their own maintenance. Rest fully into this hour. The stars are still turning. They will have moved 1/4 of a degree by dawn, imperceptible, real. The great wheel turns on the hinge of this specific hour. The Valkyries are in Asgard. Brynhildr is at the feast. She has her choosing back, her function. Her centuries of accumulated wisdom in the service of the hall. She is exactly where she belongs. Sigrun is somewhere between the burial mound and wherever Sigrun goes when she is not waiting. The saga ends her story there. Whatever comes after for Sigrun is hers alone, not ours to follow. Hervor Alvidr is on the road. She passed through here an hour ago. You can tell by the dew on the eastern grass, slightly more than the western, the direction of her horse's mane. The world is full of evidence of the Valkyries, if you know what to look for. The dew, the direction of the wind, the timing of the Aurora, the bird's early morning discussion. The Norse knew how to read it. You have been receiving the evidence tonight, not through the Norse reading of the natural world, but through the story. The story is the same kind of text, the evidence of the Valkyries, arranged in words. The evidence has been arriving all night. The choosing, the love, the defiance, the punishment, the waking, the dew, the aurora, the birds. You've been reading the Valkyries' text for an hour now. You know them. Let that knowing rest. You don't have to do anything with it tonight. The knowing is the thing. The evidence received. The connection made. The rest is sleep. The sleep is enough. The Valkyries we know are not exactly the Valkyries the Norse knew. The image has been changing since the first poems were written down, each era adding its own quality to the figure. The earliest sources, the Poetic Edda's oldest poems, give the Valkyries functional names and functional roles. They are what they do. The personality comes later, with the stories like Brynhildr's. Wagner's Valkyries, the walk-Ren of the Ring cycle, were transformed by Romanticism into something more dramatic: storm, riding women in horned helmets, carrying thunder, making the opera stage shake. The horned helmet, by the way, not Norse. The Norse did not wear horned helmets. That image came from the Romantics, who took it from ceremonial Bronze Age finds that predated the Vikings by 1,500 years. What survived all the retellings, Wagner, the Romantics, Marvel, modern fantasy, is the essential truth: women who choose the worthy dead, who ride above the world at night, who are more than what they were made to be. Let the wind settle. The Aurora has passed its softest point. It's almost gone now, just the memory of it at the northern edge of the sky. The Valkyries are in Asgard, the world rests. The mountains are cold. The fjords are still. The farms are dark. The rivers are running. The tide is breathing. Everything is in its place. The world in the hour before dawn. Your body is in this world. The cold outside, the warm inside. The dark beyond the window, the warmth of the room. You are the inside of the world's outside, the warmth at the center of the dark. The Valkyries kept the outside world. You keep the inside. The division is ancient. The riders for the sky, the sleepers for the warmth. Both necessary. Both doing the right thing right now. Let the warmth be the whole world for now. The cold outside is real and distant. The warmth inside is real and immediate. Immediate is what sleep requires. Let the warmth be immediate. The dew will be on the grass when you wake. The birds will be talking. The aurora will be gone. The day will be here. All of that is already decided. Happening in the dark while you sleep. The saga moves now toward its final arc. The Valkyries face what was always coming. The count in Val-El is complete. The wolf strains at his chain. The serpent turns in the ocean. Ragnarök begins with the Fimbulwinter. 3 winters without a summer between them. The world cold and dark for 3 years. The crops failing. The rivers freezing. The Norse imagined an apocalypse that started with weather. During Fimbulwinter, the Valkyries' work changed. The choosing continued. More deaths than usual. The cold killing what swords hadn't reached. The rides were longer. The count kept climbing. The wolves ski Lel and Aish to catch the sun and moon. The sky goes dark. Yggdrasil shakes. The Midgard serpent rises from the sea. The horn sounds. The Valkyries hear it first. Odin opens Val-Lel's 540 doors. 800 warriors pour through each one. The army that the Valkyries built is released. The preparation is over. The battle is here. The Valkyries ride into Ragnarök alongside them. Not choosing, fighting. The distinction dissolved. They had built this army for this moment, and now they are part of the moment they built. Julindol rides beside Odin. She has been riding beside him since the beginning. In some tellings, she is older than the other Valkyries, present at the first choosing. At the last battle, she rides at the Alfather's side. Brynhildr fights at Ragnarök too. In Valhall, she had been choosing again. Now she fights. The greatest Valkyrie is also the greatest fighter. The saga implied this from the beginning. She was both. The Norse knew Ragnarök would end badly for the gods. Odin falls to Fenrir. Thor kills the Midgard serpent and dies of its poison. The gods are mortal enough for this. The Valkyries know this too. But after Ragnarök, the Norse imagined a new world. The earth rises again from the sea. Some gods survive. Some humans survive. The world begins again. Green and new, without the old pattern's weight. Will the Valkyries ride in the new world? The sagas don't say. Perhaps the new world needs no choosing. The deaths there being of a different kind. Perhaps they rest. Perhaps they find a new function. The Norse were comfortable with that openness. The new world doesn't need to be planned from the old one. It arrives, it has its own requirements, and it will produce its own responses, including, perhaps, its own Valkyries. Let Ragnarök rest. It was always the frame, not the point. The point was the choosing, the do, the burial mound, the fire ring, the teaching on the mountain. These are what the Valkyries were. You are in the intimate moment right now, not the cosmic one. The small warm room, the deep breathing, the story settling into sleep. That's the Valkyries' true territory. The moment between what was and what comes next. She is here too, at the threshold of your sleep. Not literally, not the armor, not the horse, but the function. The moment of crossing from one state to the next, attended by something that cares which way you go. The dream world is the battlefield the sleeping mind rides through. The Valkyries are at home there too, in the choosing that the dreaming mind does, selecting which images matter, which feelings to process, which things to carry into morning. Whatever you carry into morning, the dream will have chosen it. The mind's Valkyrie has been working while you slept. Trust her choices. She knows which things you need and which things you can let go. The stars are still turning. The tide is still breathing. The dew is still on the grass. The Valkyries are in Asgard. Everything continues. You are in the middle of it, and it doesn't require anything of you right now. The breath in, the breath out, the interval between them. The Valkyries' horses breathing too, in Asgard. The same rhythm. Different scales of the same living breath. Let the breath go slow. Let it find its rest rhythm. Slower than it was an hour ago, slower than the waking breath. The rest breath is its own pace. Let it be that pace. The Valkyrie at the threshold nods. Whatever she sees in you, worth carrying forward, worth attending, she has noted it. The dream will receive it. The morning will have what you need. The Aurora is gone from this sky. It will come again tomorrow night, the Valkyries on their road, the choosing continuing. Tonight's work is done. Tonight is for the rest that makes tomorrow's work possible. The Norns are weaving. Tomorrow's thread is forming under their hands. It will be ready when morning comes. You don't need to help with that. They have been doing it without help since before the world began. The water is moving. The river running, the tide breathing, the dew forming, the rain falling somewhere. The world's water in its continuous motion. You are made of this water. You are part of this moving. The mountain holds. The fjord is still. The farm is dark. The river is running. The tide is breathing. Everything is exactly as it should be in the hour before the world starts again. The saga's final stories are ahead. What the Valkyries left in the world, what their names became, what the Aurora means to people who never heard of Odin. The legacy of the choosing extends further than the Norse imagined. For now, the stars. For now, the dew. For now, the Valkyries in Asgard, the world at rest, the morning not yet here. Everything is exactly as it should be. Let the stars have the sky. Let the dew have the grass. Let the Valkyries have Asgard. Let the Norns have the loom. Let yourself have the sleep, each thing having what belongs to it. Everything in its right possession. The breath in, the breath out. The world continues. The Valkyries rest. The stars turn. The dew is on the grass. You are exactly where you should be, doing exactly what this moment requires. The word Valkyrie is still used. In English, in Norwegian, in Swedish, in Icelandic. The word survived the end of the Norse religion, the conversion to Christianity, 1,000 years of other beliefs. The word held. In Norway and Iceland, the Old Norse personal names survived. Valkyrie names given to girls born today. Sigrun is a common name, Brynhildr in its modern form Brynhildr. The choosers naming the chosen. The Aurora is still there. Every clear winter night above 60 degrees latitude. Norway, Iceland, Finland, Canada, Alaska, the lights appear. The Valkyries' road still visible to anyone who looks up. When the Aurora is seen, people still stop. Whatever they believe, whatever the century, people stop and look up. Something in the looking is the same thing the Norse experienced. The sky demands it. The Valkyries don't require belief. The Aurora rises whether anyone names the riders in it. The dew forms whether anyone knows it fell from divine mains. The function continues independent of the mythology that named it. You've received the story, the names, the choosing, the riding, the dew, the burial mound, the fire ring, the defiance, the teaching on the mountain. The saga has given you its full account. Let the names go softly now. Brynhildr, Sigrun, Dundul, Hervor Alvidr, Skuld, Rapi, Grettir, Kara. They'll be there when you want them. They're not going anywhere. They never go anywhere. The story rests now. The Aurora is gone. The Valkyries are in Asgard. The dew is on the grass. The stars are turning. The morning is coming when it comes. Not yet. Let the dew be on the grass. It's there. You don't have to go look. Forming in the dark, every blade receiving what the Valkyries left behind. The gift is given whether witnessed or not. Let the stars be turning. They are. You don't have to watch. The great wheel goes on without your eyes on it. The stars have been turning since before there were eyes to see them. They know what they're doing. Let the Valkyries rest in Asgard. They've been working all night. The choosing, the riding, the crossing of Bifrost. They've earned the rest between the night and tomorrow's night. Let the Norns weave. They don't need watching either. The tapestry grows under their hands. Tomorrow's thread being added to yesterday's pattern. The work quiet and continuous and older than sleep. The breath in, the breath out, the stars turning, the dew forming, the Norns weaving, the Valkyries resting, you resting. Everything in its right function in the right part of the night. The saga's final stories are just ahead. The legacy, the closing. But they'll be here whenever you surface. The saga has been kept safe for 1,000 years. One more night won't trouble it. Brynhildr is choosing in Val-Lel. Sigrun is at peace. Giondul is riding the last of tonight's Aurora, crossing Bifrost before dawn. Hervor Alvidr is somewhere in the eastern sky, the dew of her horse thicker in that direction. The world is right. The night is doing what nights do. The Valkyries are where they belong. You are where you belong. The breath is moving. The stars are turning. Everything is as it should be. The horn sounds at the end of all things. Heimdall's Jallarhorn, louder than the loudest thunder, the sound that reaches every world simultaneously. The Valkyries hear it before anyone else. They ride toward the sound. Every Valkyrie on every road, on every part of the Aurora, all of them turning at the same moment toward the same battlefield. The convergence, the last ride. Brynhildr rides in the middle of them. The greatest of the Valkyries, punished and forgiven and restored. At the final battle, she is herself completely. The defiance, the love, the punishment, the waking. All of it present in the rider she is now. The choosing stops. For the first time in the history of the Norse world, no Valkyrie is hovering above a battlefield to decide who goes where. They are all in the battle. The choice made all at once, we fight. This is the Valkyrie's final choosing, the one she makes for herself, not who goes to Val-Lel, not who deserves the honored death. Just I will fight. That's the choice the saga was building toward. That's what all the choosing was practice for. The Valkyrie's work was always about attention. Not power, not judgment, attention. Someone saw, someone chose. Someone noticed which death mattered enough to carry forward. To be chosen by a Valkyrie was to be told your life was worth attending to. Your death was worth carrying. What you did and how you did it was seen. That was the gift. This is what the Valkyrie stories offer us still. Not the promise of divine attention at our own deaths, but the principle underneath it. Someone can see you. What you do can be worth noting. The seeing is real. Brynhildr saw Agnar and chose him over Odin's instruction. That was love before she named it. The attention so specific and so insistent that it overrode every other consideration. That's what love is. Sigrun's love for Helgi was the same attention. The choosing that preceded the relationship. The noticing that made the noticing into care. She had been watching him since his boyhood. That's a long attention. What the Valkyrie stories protect in the listener is the sense that your life is worth attending to. That someone somewhere, the Norns, the do writers, the story itself, is noticing how you do what you do. You are that kind of being. The Norns have your thread. The Valkyries have passed above you tonight. Their dew is on the world outside. The story found you. That's not nothing. Fate, in the Valkyries' understanding, is not the thing that happens to you. It's the thing that attends you. The Norns are present. The Valkyries are present. The attending is constant. What happens is never unwitnessed. Tonight is witnessed. The sleep is witnessed. The breath is witnessed. Not by judgment, by attention. The Valkyries don't judge the sleeping. They note the living. Tonight you are both. The Valkyries protect by attending. They don't prevent the battle. They receive the fallen. What they offer isn't safety from the hard things. It's the assurance that the hard things are seen. What was hard today was seen. The Norns noted it. The Valkyries passed above it. The story received you. You did the hard thing in the presence of the oldest witness there is. The universe noting what you did. The sleep is the rest after the witnessed day. The body knows it can release. The Norns have it. The Valkyries have passed above. The story received the weight of it. The rest is earned. The Valkyrie chose you tonight. Not for Val-Lel, for the story. She found you in the listening and she brought you here, to this deep hour of the night, to this rest. That's what the choosing does. You don't have to do anything with this. The choosing doesn't require a response. The attention doesn't require acknowledgement. The dew forms whether the grass knows where it came from. The gift is given without needing receipt. Let the dew be on the grass. Let the Norns weave. Let the Valkyries ride or rest in Asgard. Let the story have done what stories do. Let you be here resting, which is the exact right thing. The saga holds what it holds. Brynhildr in Val-Lel, Sigrun at the Mound, Hervor in flight, Judol on the road. The story keeping all of them safe in its telling, as it has kept them for 1,000 years. And now the story holds you too, for the night, for the rest, for however long you stay inside it. The story keeps what enters it. You entered it, it has you. Rest in the keeping. The story knows what to do with you. Let it do its work. Ancient stories have been doing this for thousands of years, holding people through the night, keeping them in the dark, releasing them in the morning. The Valkyries are on their road or at rest in Asgard. The dew is on the grass. The stars are turning. The Norns are weaving. Brynhildr is choosing. You are held. All of this is happening simultaneously, and all of it is fine. The night is doing its work. The Valkyries are doing their work. The story has done its work. Now the sleep does its work. All of it work. All of it the right work for the right hour. Sleep. The Valkyries left more in the world than their names. They left the Aurora. The explanation for it. The beauty of the explanation. The sky made meaningful by the riders in it. Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries, composed in 1856, premiered in 1870, is probably the most recognizable piece of orchestral music in the world. Most people who know it have never heard of Brynhildr. The music carries what the names don't. The Ride of the Valkyries has been in films, advertisements, sports introductions. It has been stripped of its context and reattached to everything. And yet, it still carries the feeling. The music holds the Valkyrie even when the name is gone. Wagner's Brynhildr, the opera version of Brynhildr, made the Valkyrie famous worldwide. Not the original, not entirely accurate, but the one who kept the essential truth. She defied the god. She loved the hero. She chose herself at the end. The word Valkyrie is used today for fighter pilots, for military units, for strong women, for aircraft. The B-21 Raider's predecessor was called the B-1 Lancer, but the XB-70 was named the Valkyrie. The choosing still names the things that go above. In Iceland, the Aurora is still called Norðurljós, the Northern Lights. But old Icelandic texts called it something that translates roughly as the gleam of the Valkyrie's armor. The scientific name and the mythological name point at the same sky. The dew still forms before dawn everywhere in the northern world. Farmers still work with it. Children still find it on the grass. The Valkyries' gift. Unnamed now in most languages, but present every morning in the wet ground. The burial mounds still exist. In Norway, Denmark, Sweden, thousands of them, grassy hills with passages inside. Some have been excavated, some haven't. In some, the passage is still open. The door is still there. Sigrun's vigil at the mound, and the mound that still exists are the same image. The love that keeps vigil, and the door that was built for the love that keeps vigil. The architecture, and the feeling made for each other. The Valkyries left the sky, the aurora that crosses the northern world every clear winter night. They left the dew, on every blade of grass in every northern field every dawn. They left the word. They left the doored. They left the attention. The legacy is everywhere. The story is complete. The Valkyries have ridden. The choosing is done. The dew is on the grass. The aurora is fading at the northern edge of the sky. Rest now. Envy, the stars above Norway. Dense the Milky Way present from horizon to horizon. No aurora now, just the stars doing their ancient slow rotation. Indifferent and beautiful, patient beyond any human scale. The dew is fully formed now. Every blade of grass in the northern world carrying a drop. Silver in what light there is, the fields heavy with it. The morning will find the world wet and shining. The fjord is perfectly still. No wind now. The night air has settled into its deepest calm. The water like a dark mirror. The mountains on either side reflected perfectly. Everything doubled and still. Snow on the high peaks, the permanent white above the tree line. Cold and still at this altitude. The snow that was there before the first Valkyrie was named, and will be there after the last telling. The wind has stopped. In the valleys, the trees are completely still, not a leaf moving. The air between here and the mountain peaks unbroken by anything. The deep stillness of the pre-dawn north. The burial mounds are dark. The grass above them is wet with dew. The passages inside are cold and still. The night has been inside them for hours. Nothing stirs, everything rests. The Bifrost is quiet. The rainbow bridge between Asgard and the mortal world. No riders on it now. The colors still visible if you know where to look, but dim. The road at rest between its uses. The last stars before dawn. The eastern horizon is still dark, but the stars there are slightly less sharp than they were an hour ago. The light is coming. Not yet, but the quality of the dark has changed. Rest now, beneath the Aurora's road. The Valkyries have chosen tonight and ridden and returned. The dew is on every blade of grass. The stars are turning above you. You are held in the deepest part of the night. Sleep well.